So, I just went and got to see the brand new film, Abigail, the newest film from the director duo called Radio Silence, the same guys that made the two brand new Scream movies that we got the last couple years, and also the underrated Ready or Not. This is a director duo that I really love. They just do not miss. They make great movies almost consistently. I mean, the fact that the last 3 years they've released great films is really remarkable, and Abigail is a great film. This is a film that completely took me off guard and surprised me in every which way, shape, or form, blew away my expectations, and ended up being a damn good time, but I do have some problems with it that I'm going to address here. So what is Abigail? Abigail is a film about this ragtag group of people who have to go and kidnap this little girl who is a ballerina. They steal her from, like, what it seems to be this billionaire's house, and they bring her to this location where they're told they need to hold her there while they get a ransom from the father. Now, while they're watching this little girl throughout the night, weird stuff starts happening around this household, and eventually they find out that this little girl is a killer vampire, and now they have to survive. It's a very simple setup that I'll actually get into later in the video, because I have some small problems with it, but at the same time, very simple premise, and it's a premise that is actually a lot more than it seems on the front of it. This seems like, especially from the trailers, that it could have ended up being just a very generic movie about a little girl vampire killing people, and although it is that for the most part, there's so much more in this movie for a multitude of different reasons that these filmmakers were able to bring out. So let me get into it. What are the strengths of this movie? First off, the cast of this movie is incredible. Melissa Barrera, who's become a staple of Radio Silence films, is a star as the leading role. Her performance is what it needs to me. She's strong, she's strict, but she's also kind of the smartest of this group, a little bit of a badass, and the most likable character within this ragtag group. And all of the characters here are supposed to kind of be these unlikable people. They're all criminals who come from different backgrounds in crime. They all come from different things, and we don't really get to know all of them super well, but the ones that we do get to know are very interesting, and all of these characters are so much fun, and their chemistry together is amazing. Some of the other people in this movie that are great: Dan Stevens as Frank is unbelievable. He sort of plays the bad boy of the group. He's playing this sort of a grizzled detective who's just sort of an ass. He is so satirical and so hilarious. Dan Stevens is on his shit this entire movie. By far my favorite character in the film, even if I have some problems with what they did with him in the third act, which I'll get to in a second without spoiling anything, but Dan Stevens is awesome. I also think Katherine Newton is great in this film. She's kind of building off what she did in Lisa Frankenstein, and although I don't like this character in this performance as much as what she did there, it still is a massive upgrade of what she was able to do in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumanium. So Katherine Newton is on a roll. She's great in this film. Another star, Kevin Durand. He's kind of the comic relief of this movie. He is the muscle. His character is hilarious. He sells it so well, being this kind of big, dumb idiot. He plays a great character. He might just be playing Drax the Destroyer, but that's okay. And the little girl, who I believe her name is Alicia Weir, she plays this vampire girl, and honestly, this entire movie is a major success because it was carried on the shoulders of this child actress who is so much better than anybody has the right to be at that age. She is incredible in this film at a multitude of different things. When she's selling this scared little girl persona, she's great. When she's selling this terrifying, evil vampire that's ballerina dancing and doing weird shit and climbing on the ceiling and attacking people, she sells the body acting and the mannerisms so extraordinarily well. There is one scene that I don't want to spoil, but it includes her dancing and something else dancing that I won't even mention because I don't want to spoil nothing, but that scene and the way that she was able to perform that was so brilliant, and she's so good throughout this whole movie. This movie does not work if you get a bad performance from a child actress. This movie works extremely well if you get a legendary performance from a child actress, and that's what they got here. You also get Giancarlo Esposito in this movie. I don't really have anything to say about him, but anytime he shows up in a movie, I like it even more because he's just one of those guys. So let me talk about the movie and its structure. The movie script is really good. This movie is funny. It is extremely funny. This movie had me laughing more than I laugh in most movies like this. It's a lot funnier than the other Scream movies, but it is very familiar to those other Scream movies on how it builds up its twists and also its kills and its violence. It's very similar to Radio Silence's Scream movies and Ready Player One. So if you're familiar with those movies, you're going to be familiar for how this movie works. It sets up a mystery. It sets up different twists and turns that the story's going to take the route. It gives you interesting characters who are a little goofy, a little funny, but are serious enough that you can actually care about them. They're not just kind of caricatures. They're not just kind of one-layered characters. They have some depth to them. The movie doesn't get right into its premise, though. The movie takes a while to sort of introduce the fact that this girl is a vampire, which I think kind of hurts the movie a little bit, in the sense that the movie, before you find out she's a vampire, seems to be building it up like this big mystery, that there's something in this house that's slowly attacking them and haunting them and creeping them out, and it would be such an intriguing mystery if you didn't go into the movie already knowing that this girl was a vampire. Now, I say this with a little bit of caution, because I can't really make this a negative about the movie when the entire marketing of this film and the concept was based around this little girl being a vampire. They couldn't say, come see this movie, without saying, come see this movie, it's about a little girl who turns into a vampire and kills people, right? That was the sell of the movie. But the first 30 minutes kind of treats the audience like the audience doesn't know what's coming. And then when you find out that she's a vampire, it's sold as this big reveal when it's not, because you know it's coming. So that's the only problem I really have with the opening, but it is really well structured, sets up the mystery of why they're in this place and what's really going on extremely well, and does some really good world building. I kind of want to see what's going on outside this house with some of the other characters that they talk about. The second act of this movie is brilliant, with the characters just trying to deal with their situation. You lose some characters, some of the characters really start bonding. It got to a point in this movie where these characters and these actors had so much chemistry with each other, and they were so funny, bouncing off each other. The scenes were so good. I genuinely did not want to see any of them die, and it hurt me when, you know, eventually some characters died. It kind of hurt me a little bit because you didn't want to see it. They had such good chemistry between each other that you just wanted more and more of it, and that's really good. When you get that in a film, that really says something. There was a lot of talent in this script and on the screen and behind the cameras that really went to making that relationship between this core of characters good enough that you care enough that you don't want to see them die. But when they do die, it's marvelous. God damn the violence in this movie. It is gruesome, it is graphic, it is brutal, and it is glorious in every which way form that you could expect, especially from these directors who have done a very, very good job at bringing the brutal and the gruesome to screen without it being grotesque in a way. And the movie builds into its third act, which you were expecting a twist, and you do get a twist in the third act. Now, here's where the film kind of lost me a little bit. I didn't love the third act. I didn't find it believable. There are things that the characters do, choices the characters make that I just personally did not buy into. I did not understand it, I did not get it, and I did not love it. And there's a weird heel turn and a babyface turn that I just didn't like because I didn't think you needed it. I thought you could have kept the movie going the way that it was and found a way to uniquely end it and maybe throw in a little bit of a twist at the end with a certain character coming in, and that would have worked fine for me. Instead, the movie just kind of takes a weird turn. It felt like they needed, the directors at least, the writers felt like they needed something more in the third act. They needed a big surprise to subvert the audience, and they just threw something in there, and it worked for some people, but for me, the movie just kind of lost me in the third act, and it gets violent, it gets crazy, but by the time the credits are rolling, the movie just kind of lost me. And from where I was in the second act and the first act, where I was locked in and just laughing my butt off and loving these characters and loving this kind of weird world that they were building here and loving the violence and the aspect of this, ballerina killer vampire, I just kind of lost that a little bit in the final 20-ish minutes of the film, which is unfortunate. But it's not a bad third act. People are going to love it. People are going to eat it up. There's a big reveal at the end that was not really great in my opinion. Because they kind of sell an expectation with, like, the final seconds of the film that something big was going to happen. And then I guess for some people it'll be something big, but for me, I was expecting something bigger. Like, I'm not going to go into it anymore because I don't want to spoil nothing, even, like, the concept of what it is. But I was expecting more, you know? Overall, though, I love this movie. Radio Silence, they're one of my favorite directing groups, one of my favorite producing groups out there right now. These guys don't miss. They know how to make entertaining thriller, slasher, horror films. Movies that are both hilarious, have some scares in them, have really, really good use of violence and kills, and tell an intriguing story with good characters. They know how to do it. They did it with 2 Scream movies in back-to-back years. They did it with Ready Player. They did it with Ready or Not. They're going to do it with Ready or Not, too, and they did it here with Abigail, a movie that by the trailers looked generic but was anything but. And I would be remiss if I didn't talk about Angus Cloud. I know I haven't talked about him yet, and you're probably wondering why. Now, this is Angus Cloud's final performance. He wrapped this movie a few weeks before he passed away. Angus Cloud is phenomenal in Euphoria. He was arguably, in my opinion, the best part of that show outside of Zendaya's performance, and he is in this movie, and unfortunately, he doesn't do much. So, there's not much I could say. But what he does do early in the film is entertaining. It's fun. He's a fun character. It's different than Euphoria. He's kind of playing this sociopathic, Joker-like character in this group, and it's entertaining for what it's worth. He does a great job in this movie, but what he really does a great job in is Euphoria, so if you want to appreciate Angus Cloud, go check out Euphoria. Overall, I really liked Abigail. I will give it a 4 out of 5. What do you guys think of Abigail? Let me know down below. Make sure to like this video, subscribe for more. Make sure to click the video on your screen right now to see more. I'll see you guys in the next one.